It has been an action-packed month for the e-commerce sector, with Flipkart raising $1 billion and Amazon announcing a $2 billion investment in the Indian market. What does this mean for the e-commerce scenario of the country, and how will this affect the low-funded startups? All these and many more you'll get to know in the next 30 minutes from none other than Praveen Sinha, founder and managing director, Jabong.com. In an exclusive chat with VCC TV, Praveen will also talk about the expansion plans of Jabong and how it sees a huge market potential for the e-commerce sector in the villages of the country. However, before we get to the MD, let's hear from the employees of Jabong. How was it like working with the company?
See, Jabong as a company is very young. So you have a lot of creative ideas flowing, and you have a lot of new things to learn here. Jabong is an experience that's giving me a lot of travel that I do. So it has given me an opportunity to travel to Dubai, to China.
They have a fish philosophy, which I would definitely like to highlight, where you can have an immediate recognition, not from the manager, from the other team also, because you are working as a team. We belongs to a team where we have to support each another. So if you busy with your tied up schedule, in a day you feel like you're feeling tiring, you can go to the cafeteria, a lot of games and music there. You can relax yourself.
Well, yes, it is my first job, and I think it's a little different from the other corporates in terms of the kind of profiles we get. Like I have a very different profile. So I have a psychology background, and here my profile is an amalgamation of HR and operations. So the company offers you that. It depends on your skill set and your work experience, and your profile is molded according to that. So that flexibility, I think, is a pro and is not seen in most organizations. The focus is on the quality of work rather than the number of hours you do. And it isn't a typical, huge company where you're, clocking in hours like corporate slaves. So it's quite flexible.
Hi Praveen, welcome on VCC TV. So we just got to hear that there's been an announcement of $2 billion by Amazon, and before that Flipkart obviously said that it has raised $1 billion investment. How does these developments look like to you? I mean, how would these be impacting the domestic e-commerce players who are out there in the sector?
See, I think I had made some observation when the first announcement happened, that investors have started showing confidence in the market, and specific to e-commerce, not only in India but e-commerce in particular. And hence one announcement, and within I would say few hours another announcement validates that point. There are many other investors who would like to come in. Again, it won't be like a ticket size like 2 billion, 3 billion, but there are many other e-commerce sites, or I would say supporting infrastructure for e-commerce, be it supply chain, warehousing, IT or cloud-based ERP. So there are multiple areas where this investment will get infused again, and with reinforced interest and confidence. So even with this kind of an investment, the money will be spent either on branding, marketing, or price, passing on price discounts to the consumers, or technology or mobile platform. And hence I think the overall ecology for e-commerce, including the other infrastructure support, is in a very, I would say, well placed situation in India, and a positive signal. In terms of threats or any concern areas, I would consider two. For other existing general merchandising, it's going to be a tough fight. So the differentiation needs to be strong, or probably this kind of funding people can build a lot of other support system. The other area would be that it might result into a lot of price discounting. My sense is that at a reasonable and a sustainable level, it is good for the overall ecology. So consumer gains, the brand gains. But beyond or going below COGS, I think will not be a sustainable decision. And given the current infrastructure and the current strategy of most of the founders and the companies who have entered, I would have a very low probability of this happening.
This was of course a holistic approach, but talking exclusively about Jabong, what sort of concern would Jabong have at the back of this investment?
The overall confidence on the team and what we are doing in e-commerce space, has been validated. So many of our stakeholders will have a reinforced belief in the market, in the opportunity. The areas of concern I will consider is that definitely there would be an intense competition in terms of fighting for the space in branding, etc. But we are slightly uniquely placed in terms of being the fashion destination rather than a general merchandiser, and hence the positioning and the relationship and the kind of brands that we can bring in gives us an advantage of not competing or not competing in all the spaces where a general merchandiser is. And hence I would say for us it's an intense, the competition will definitely increase.
What does the pecking order look like? If you were to give a unionist and an unbiased view, where would you place yourself?
In India, number one.
Okay, and could you give some statistics for that?
So I would consider 2-3 things. One is definitely the number of orders and revenue. They give you a sense in terms of both how frequently customers are coming and what is their basket size, etc. So in both those parameters we had achieved leadership, and the second parameter would be the traffic. So for example, how many people are coming to your website. On subjective and judgmental level, I would say the feedback and the brand awareness that you can get from the consumers. So today Jabong is well known. So in fact I was in a meeting with one of the big 4 consulting firms, and they were doing a research on rural marketing, and they approached me and said that they wanted to know more about our approach towards rural marketing.
We just talked about the rural market. So do we have anything to hear maybe by the end of this year or maybe early next year if Jabong is having some aggressive presence out there?
We are running 2 to 3 pilots in that direction.
And which all the areas would that be?
So it's close, I would say it's closer to NCR,
Okay.
Haryana and Punjab broadly, and some parts of UP as well.
And what all the activities would the pilots entail?
If you have a pilot where you are saying that okay, this villages has very limited smartphones with internet, then can I introduce to one family and then try to see the acceptance across the community. Second is, if there is no logistics infrastructure there, can I create a hub where the delivery won't happen every day, but it can happen once or twice a week, and will that be acceptable to the population? Will there be enough demand, and will the third party logistics agree to, etc.
And how many villages are you taking up in the phase 1?
This is a pilot, not more than 4 villages today, but if it works out, then I will say this is the phase 1 of the project.
So why at all are you looking at villages? Do you think that there's this huge opportunity out there?
See, I think if you do a high level cut of the Indian demography, you'll still find majority of our population is in rural areas. 2, it's not that rural areas have any challenges in spending on the right product of the right value. So their buying appetite is also there. So those 2 actually gives you a clear indication that yes, there is enough opportunity there. However, it's very diversified and distributed. So villages in, let's say, Jharkhand and villages in Haryana or villages in Punjab cannot be mapped one to one. If we create one strategy for one set of villages, might not work for different set of villages. So we'll have to segregate villages in terms of tiers or in terms of affordability.
So what sort of products would we be seeing Jabong doing a pilot for that?
We will be selling all our Jabong products, fashion
Would they
products.
be like branded apparel and shoes and other stuff?
Yes, yes. So again, I think they have equal aspiration, and they will be given all the choices. So there will be price points from, let's say, rupees 500 to 5,000 or 15,000 rupees shoes.
Can we have some statistic on the numbers that you have reported?
I won't be able to share exact numbers. Year on year, our growth has been always in 3 digits, and we will aspire to do again this year.
So Flipkart has been saying that it has been shipping 5 million products per month. So what does that look like to you?
Numbers looks healthy, I would say. It's a 50 lakh, so almost 80,000, yeah, almost 2 lakhs a day, 1.5 to 2 lakhs a day. So if you see, the last peak was around 1 lakh items shipped. So I think it's achievable numbers. And two, if you compare to, let's say, developed countries like China or US, these numbers will also look not that significant. So the potential of this is to have this kind of transaction a day, probably not today, but e-commerce sits on this platform where it can be scaled within few months, provided the back-end supply chain is there, since you don't need to open stores.
So by when would Jabong want to crack this target?
See, we have set targets for ourselves, both in terms of I would say three things: number of orders, revenue, and health. So our aspiration will not be when do I become a million. Our aspiration is that this is the total fashion market in India, and we want to have that leadership positions.
Deadline to achieving an X amount of target?
Yes, so it will be in terms of revenue, not in terms of orders.
You of course have not shared the numbers of the revenue so far.
Yeah, so numbers we won't be able to share, but definitely with time our disclosure policies will also become lenient, and then we will be able to do that.
Alright, Praveen, tell us something about the expansion plan that Jabong has, in near-term expansion plan.
See, I think the expansion in terms of categories, I don't think we will move out of fashion positioning and fashion focus, and hence most of the subcategories which fits to this offering is already there. The expansion will be in terms of geographical distribution, and definitely it's going to be partnership model, and through our logistics partner like Blue Dart, Gojavas, etc. And other courier partners, but also through our own pilots, the way I was discussing. Third area is in terms of ensuring more brands. We will come out with your own lines as well, understanding the needs of the consumers. Many such initiatives will happen. If you just remember, we introduced Jabong India Online Fashion Week. The beauty of that show was that it was a shoppable show. So the fashion show, while models are walking on the ramp, the products that they are wearing is shown on the sides, and you can buy it there.
Right. So would there be some, top high-end brands and niche brands which are still to find acceptability in the country on ground level? Jabong would be having it there?
Ground level acceptance of many brands is a tricky question. India is a very diversified country. It's not yet a luxury market for many brands who are considered luxuries and all. But there is just because of the sheer population, the number of people who will buy it makes it even significant, even if it's not accepted by many people. And hence, based on the strategy and the brand positioning of different brands, India is always a lucrative market. But if you have to cut it in terms of will it appeal to many people here, even if it does not, it makes sense for the brand, because there are, in terms of sheer quantity, we have enough population and enough buyers for that particular segment to make it scalable and sustainable.
So Flipkart and Myntra is combined. How big a competition has it meant for you? And going forward, what are your strategies to take on them?
See, I think it's a recent phenomenon, and the event has to shape out in full. There are strengths of this merger where there is a synergy that can happen, and the brand positioning can be kept intact in terms of fashion positioning. Otherwise, there can be a merger of general merchandising with fashion. So from I would say from customer perception perspective, and from a lot of fashion brands perspective, I think the identity will be kept separate. Having said that, what changes for us? So as a fashion portal, we always assume that we'll have a strong competition, and we also assume that they will have enough support from their stakeholders, including investors, to compete with us. And hence at that level and at that thought level, nothing changes, because now what has happened, the brand was there, it's still there, and two, there is a change in probably the investors, and there is some synergy that will happen. So hence for us, at a very high level, our approach, I don't see a drastic change in that. It gives us some advantages as well, which I won't share now, but definitely it gives us many advantages where we can also leverage
In terms of brand identity?
Yes, and many more. So there are strengths, and so any merger will have some strengths, and the competition will have some advantage and some disadvantage. But we never assume that our competition is weak or will become weak, and hence we will win one day. We always assume that India is a market where it will have more than 3-4 players, and there will be strong competition.
So there are reports that Flipkart is looking out for a 1 million square feet office out there in Bangalore. They'll be putting in lots of money into warehousing logistics. How do you plan to take on them here?
Whatever we need to do in terms of keeping that position and keeping that recall and keeping that customer experience intact, whatever investment is required, we have got enough investment already, and we have support of a lot of existing investors that if required, let's say after coming few years to go further deep into it, we have enough support.
You had your own logistic arm, which you of course sold off, Java. So you think it was a right decision having your internal logistic arm? Wouldn't it promise more control over your business?
When we started as a ecology where a lot of such partners had come, and there were many startups also. In that community, many of those startups have scaled with us because the entrepreneur behind them, the processes, etc., were good enough to scale with us. In technical terms, they were always independent, and hence I will not make those statements. And two, I would consider that since you are aware of one, there are many more such startups which actually were able to scale and made it sustainable. Earlier, since we were growing up, let's say we were 20% of their business, but we were growing 200-300%, so we became 80% of their business, and someday we became 90% of their business. But then they also scaled, and then they also got more customers, and then it has happened with a manpower supplier, it has happened with a technology supplier, where our rapid growth actually made them dependent on us because we were growing so fast and they were able to give us the service level, which has happened not only in one area but multiple areas.
So don't you think had you still been in collaboration with them, it would have been much easier for you to deal with aggressive logistics and expansion plan that Flipkart and Myntra is planning right now?
See, to my mind, I think the partnership needs to be respected. It's not that you always need to own it to deliver it, otherwise you will need to create your own bank. You will also need to create your own airlines. My view is that similar to telecom industry, when the telecom industry started in India, every telecom operator wanted to have their own towers. But when they started scaling, it became apparent and clear that it's better to share towers and then sell the service and the bandwidth. So it took time to realize, but that's how it will happen in.
But you also want to share some other verticals that Jabong has with other competitions going forward?
I won't say that would we like to share. I would say, is there any infrastructure which can be developed for the whole ecology? So let's say, for example, I would say there should be public government also participating. If there is an expressway or a cargo way where the logistics challenge and cost is significantly reduced, so would I like to own it? Can I own it and create on my own? Or if 10 of such e-commerce companies come together and give them that scale, and if it can be built by any third party also, it helps the whole ecology. So owning and copy whatever trademark or copyright or patent you can have on those newer ideas, or I would say process, that you can create as your unique strength as a company. But the infrastructure, I think, should be shared.
As well as the logistics.
Including logistics, because the logistics is a scale business.
What is the future trend that you'll see in the e-commerce space?
Mobile is going to be significant. So people accessing internet or portals or through application will increase. It will increase to the tune of more than 50% in coming 1 to 2 years. It might even go to 70% of the total traffic. Conversion will be slightly lower. The highest growth will be the categories that we are operating in, which is fashion. One, because of the first principle, the tendency and the frequency to buy fashion is more. And two, it's a category which takes time to evolve. So consumers move from content, travel, books, electronics, and then fashion. So the journey takes time. So this is the part where fashion will start becoming the highest growth category. As per few reports, it said that 2017-18 fashion will be the largest category, in fact bigger than electronics. In 3 to 4 years, if the infrastructure of delivery including payment is solved, and the big plans from the government as well of connecting or ensuring internet connectivity in villages, etc. happens, then majority of the sales will start coming from tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Even today it has crossed 50%.
Currently, you're also supplying to tier 2, tier 3 cities. And what is the difference in the consumer behavior that you as a company notice when you supply your products to these places as compared to the metro cities?
So one comment that is generally made is tier 2 and tier 3 follows metros, let's say in fashion or anything. I have a different view that they don't follow fashion. The delivery follows tier 2 and tier 3. The product first reaches Delhi, then it reaches tier 2 and tier 3, and hence if you are an observer from a distance and you see that the first fashion comes to Delhi, and then similar is the global fashion. So it will probably be in Milan or Paris, and then it comes to India. E-commerce has actually bridged that gap, where if even in offline and other shopping experience, it takes time, provided it's not well thought that there is a one-day release and first let me push the inventory all across India and open it. Otherwise, generally the newer or the fresh inventory will reach the metro cities or a destination like Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, and then again shipped out, because that's where the central warehouse would be, and then it's moved out to different locations. In our case, we are able to scale it immediately. So if you have that taste, if you know that this product you like, and be it you are in Delhi or Bangalore, or you are in a small city in Uttarakhand or UP, you can buy the product that day. So it's not that first people start shopping a new trend in metros and then they start shopping. A new trend, a good trend gets shopped equally all across India. There are some sensitivities. There would be slightly difference in the payment ways. For example, cash on delivery will be more in smaller cities. So those kind of observation, because the credit card penetration is not there. So you will see those kind of observations. Even for price points, you will find that higher price points are sold across. It's not that only 4 top cities buy expensive products.
So talking about the traction or the shopping that actually happens on the website, how much of that is contributed by women customers, or maybe by products which are meant for women?
What strong differentiation we have seen is that men might be more price driven and discount driven. Women are more style driven. So they will look for fashion more than men, and men will look for brands and price discounts more. But having said that, so that's part one, where we were able to get almost 45-50% total consumers as women.
When we talk 40, 45, 50%, is that women customers who are coming on
Yes,
board and buying for themselves?
Yes.
Or is it also, men would also be gifting products?
Right, so that's what was my second point. Okay. So 45-50. But that analysis we'll have to add. For example, what happens, it's not only men gifting women. There are many times, let's say, at least in India, many women will not have their own credit card, or they will not be very comfortable using debit card on internet or net banking. So they will choose the product and select the product and ask someone in their family, who might be men, might be their parents or husband or brother or whoever, to buy it for them. So you'll find a lot of men buying women products.
So combined together, how much of attraction in terms of shopping, in terms of conversion, women customers generate for Jabong?
I will not have that answer like
But that's
on
of
the
course
record.
50% plus.
50% plus, yes. So that's what I was going to say, 50% plus definitely. And in fashion, I think this is the right number.
So talking exclusively about fashion, what sort of competition have you been facing from companies like Myntra, Yepme and Fashion in You?
See, the overall sector is evolving, and definitely there are competition both in terms of getting brands to getting consumers, and I think it's healthy in a way because it puts pressure on the overall I would say system, including the competition, to always be ahead in terms of thought and then executing and creating that space and niche of getting more brands ahead of others or providing a service experience more than others. And that's why I think one we always wanted to do, but the pace of doing it is always fast because we know there are many other players and they are smart people.
Competitors have always feared you for being too aggressive with your approach. Last year in Chennai, I believe that had happened that one of your competitors even went on record to say that Jabong had been poaching employees from the company, and you have been out in the market to ensure that even if you face some sort of a disappointment or maybe if you rake in little loss, you would ensure that the other person was not making enough profit. So would you be ensuring that such a cutthroat competition continues going ahead?
We are here to create a sustainable and scalable business, and we are willing to do whatever it takes in a right way to achieve what we as a team had aspired to. So our intention will never be to start irrational competition or irrational price war from customers angle, from employees angle, from experience angle, from investors angle. I don't think as a company we have any such intentions. However, if in a situation, if the context demands it, we are not close to taking aggressive, and we are known for it. So we will definitely act as per the context and the requirement.
Will it come to news that Jabong is again on a hiring spree and taking employees from the other companies overnight?
See, that was I won't compare. First, I don't know how much truth is in your statement. So,
Of course, I
so I will. I won't make such statements. We are looking for the right talent. We are not looking for poaching the talent, but we are looking for the right talent. And wherever they are, and if they are passionate about and they love what they do, we would like to onboard them rather than thinking that I'll go there and poach them. There are enough talent in India, but definitely there will be a hunt for talent.
Going by the Samwer brothers model of functioning, they don't plan to stick around in a business for long. So given that, what would be the execution plan for Jabong here?
First, I will say that's an opinion that you have made. It might not be factual. I will not say right or wrong.
That's perhaps a history.
Yeah. So everyone starts with some exit and some philosophy. Does not necessarily mean that all other plans will be on a similar line, and it's not conclusive. Number one. Number two, I would say that most of the investors, not only for Jabong, every big businesses that have been formed are being backed up by many of them are being backed up by VC or private equity, and they will always have an exit plan. And the exit plan can be within 5 years or 10 years, but they will have an exit plan. The timing for which you have your opinion, I don't think so. I think that most of the investors we have are very supportive, and not only for the business model but also for the duration. However, I think the exit will be the consequence of most of the successful IPOs or buyouts. So that will happen in the future, but is there a pressure that we need to exit tomorrow or next year? No, that's not the case, and that's not the situation.
And there's no word on your public listing either?
No. We have no concrete plans as of now.
In an infamous email, Oliver Samwer wrote, and I quote, "I do not accept surprises. I want this plan confirmed by all three of you. You must sign it with your blood." So it's but an open secret in the industry that it's not easy to work with Samwer brothers. Can you share some experience of yours with them?
I think media and many people have a slightly different opinion on Rocket or Oliver. My sense is that he's someone who is full of energy and very passionate about what he does, and I won't have any comment on this email, etc. But everything has to be put into a context, in what tone, language and tonality things are being said. So I will not consider the statement in terms of working difficult, etc. People who don't enjoy building startups might find it difficult, but if you are of the same motive that you want to build something which you feel proud of, you have similar thoughts, and you have similar energy and passion to achieve that. So broadly I would say that no, but it depends on the context here.
You've been talking about the context. So what was the context in which this email was written?
See, this specific email, I'll have no statements to make because I don't know how you have got it, and two, in what context. I think people who has sent it or people who has received it would be the right person to make comment on that.
But what would justify the quitting that happened by two of the other co-founders? Don't you think it gives a wrong message to the industry?
You observe most of the startups in India, including our competition. There have been always many founders, even global companies who have got listed in 100 billion and all. You see, there have been founders, movies have been made that people split, some on good tone, some on bad tone. It has happened with startups. So I will not categorize one company over the other. That it's an evaluation process.
What is the kind of independence managing directors get here? And it's also said that here MDs get salary and they don't get a stake in the company. What do you have to say on that?
Yeah, I will say that there is a huge empowerment of what we do, not only MDs but also to the team. If you are good in what you are doing, you get all the support and empowerment to get it done.
What do you mean by empowerment?
Empowerment is that you own it. So for example, you have to take decisions on be it finance, be it on team. If you are given an area, you are the full owner of that. It's a profile, I think, not only for us but the whole team that we have created. We enjoy our work. So definitely money is one of the criteria, but in the hiring practice, I consider it as hygiene. People should come to do what they love, and they should be rewarded for what they do. But they should not come that, at least my feeling is that this is the reward and hence I'll do. I'll do because I love it.
So talking all about empowerment, the MDs would still not get a stake in the company.
I won't discuss this, but definitely there are interest associated, but I don't think it's going to be public or the details, etc. will be shared.
What do you mean by interest associated?
Definitely, see, if the companies grow, the team will get some advantage of it, but the details of how it will be distributed, etc. will not be in the public domain today.
So is that what I can grab is that in the days to come, Jabong may as well offer shares to its employees, maybe the top level, in the days to come, of course.
See, I will not make statements of that sort, but what I can say is definitely the consideration will be there, but to commit and
is
to
it
confirm.
already there, the consideration?
For what?
The consideration to offer stakes in the long run, is it already there?
See, again, you're forcing me to answer something, so which I choose not to.
That's your choice.
Yeah.
No, but then you're just saying something that there is a consideration that's going on, and maybe. That's
But yeah, so I'll make statements when. So my tendency is to make statements when things are executed rather than when things are getting planned or thought. So today I'll have no statements in that direction. But at a thought level, I'm aligned with you. At a thought level, if you are asking me, I think people and the team who are behind creating a successful story, some part of the success should be contributed and the contribution should be associated at a thought level. Yes.
Is there a hiring target that Jabong has as of now?
See, coming fiscal, let me answer it differently. Instead of I will say hiring, I will say how many employment opportunities can be created, be it us, be it career partners, etc. My sense is it will be more than 2,000 people plus, but not on our payroll. It will depend on the partners, etc. Say more than 60% would come in the area of supply chain, warehousing, field executives, delivery boys, but it will be more than 2,000 people for sure in the next year.
You're talking about direct and indirect.
Direct and but full time only for Jabong work.
Alright.
Yeah.
Alright, Praveen, thank you so much. So on this note, I would like to thank you for taking time out for VCC TV. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.